Hello and welcome to another open source workplace video. As you know, we're trying to bring you shorter, more meaningful content at the moment, given the COVID pandemic that's actually going around the world. So today, I'm happy to introduce you to Stuart Commins, who is a commercial real estate broker in London. Stuart, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. It's good to chat.
No, I'm actually very happy to have you on. I've been trying to get you on the open source workplace for a while, so I'm glad I have the bandwidth to sort of, maybe that's the wrong word to use because I know how busy you are, but obviously you're someone who I rely on heavily for my day job. I rely on you to manage my international portfolio, so it's really good to sort of bring those people to the audience so that they can actually see and hear experts who are actually in the field daily and can provide insights. So Stuart, tell us a little bit about yourself and yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously, as you said, I'm a commercial property broker in London and look after occupiers across the board. As you quite rightly pointed out, you are one of our clients and one of my clients who I work with on a regular basis. But we look after many clients across different sectors and all at different stages of their business life, life cycle. So the impact of this virus on each business has been slightly different to everyone. And it's been quite interesting learning and dealing with different circumstances at a different time and different period in these businesses' growth.
Great. So what sort of differences are you seeing in the market then?
Yeah, so I mean, look, London's been in a very, I suppose you could argue, fortunate position from a landlord's perspective. Certainly over the last 2 to 3 years, vacancy rates remain just below 5%, and despite various political uncertainty, we've just got through Brexit, and obviously now we face with this crisis of COVID-19. The real estate market has remained pretty resilient, and the main reason for that is that there is actually a shortage of supply coming online in the next year, 2 years. A lot of the buildings that you look around which are being developed have got pre-commitments in place at the moment. And so what we're seeing, I think the demand, there's 5.2 million square feet of active requirements out in the London market at the moment. What we're seeing is that a lot of occupiers, the larger occupiers in particular, are still carrying on with their potential offer strategies, whether that's a relocation or an expansion move. But we're certainly seeing occupiers that have probably 1 to maybe 1.5 years left towards the end of their lease event, just taking stock as to over this period now, trying to work out what is the right solution going forward. It is uncertain times. I think everyone wants to sit here and say we've got the right answer, but it's a fluid situation. Things are changing all the time. We're learning, brokers on the ground, we're learning as to, what it is that businesses need, and also what it is in terms of landlords. I mean, this situation has not been brought about because of landlords. And I think we need to understand that we don't want a situation of, yes, my job is certainly to drive value for occupiers and to get them the best potential deals and provisions on their office space. But we don't want a situation where this becomes so detrimental to landlords that we don't have a market left. And therefore, the challenge at the moment is trying to create a reasonable position for both occupiers and landlords to find a middle ground on how we deal with this uncertain period.
And is everybody playing in the sandpit nicely? Is everyone adhering to the rules, or is there a bit of mavericks on both sides? Because I'm sure there are.
Yeah. I think, look, you're quite right. I think there's generally landlords are being very pragmatic, and I think occupiers are too. Certainly from what I can see, there needs to be. I think there needs to be reasonableness that's taken into every situation and is taken into consideration. So landlords, will look at different occupiers with a different kind of paintbrush. Your large, big businesses, everyone's been impacted. I don't want to sit here and say that large businesses haven't been impacted, but certainly your startups, your SMEs have felt more of a hit than your larger institutions that can generally have the cash flow to deal with this uncertain period. So we're seeing landlords offering solutions to help with that temporary cash flow issues, whether that's deferred rental payments or rent-free upfront now to extend the lease terms at the end of their expiries, or whether it's simply a matter of just helping in terms of with deposit money. So a lot of occupiers and certainly SME startup businesses have surety in place with a lot of these landlords, whether it's 6 months rent deposit or 9 months rent deposit. And certain landlords are allowing occupiers to dip into that pool of money to offset a lot of the outgoings like business rates, service charge and rent that they're liable for at the moment, with the intention to obviously top that up when it goes back to business as usual. So look, there's that angle, and I think there's a situation where a lot of occupiers are seeking pre-lets, and these buildings are naturally impacted because construction periods have been jeopardized. We're seeing situations where a lot of landlords are having to, reduce their contractors on site. A lot of sites are operating at about 40%, and therefore it's going to have a knock-on impact into when these buildings can reach practical completion. And in these circumstances, landlords are offering additional incentives as part of the deal, whether that's 2 to 3 months rent-free or delayed lease commencement start dates. But I think the general tone around the market is that rents, while we might see a plateau or a slight dip, rents still remain steady. I think it's too early to tell to see where deals have been done in a period. I think it'll be this period now where we see what transaction levels are being done at. But landlords are very conscious about their investment value, their asset value, and therefore I think there's a strong focus on keeping rents at a certain level and trying to work in that incentive elsewhere.
Got it. And I have to imagine that those, occupiers who are looking for longer term deals are probably hesitant to sign and commit to those deals today. But then you probably have those folks who are, less than 12 months, 24 months to run on their current lease are probably anxious to negotiate and get something secured in the meantime. Is that a true reflection of what you're seeing in the market?
Absolutely. As I said, it probably brings you back to what I was originally saying in terms of, just supply in the market in London. There isn't a lot out there, certainly for the next 2 to 3 years, and that's being forecasted to come online. And I think you're completely right. There's the one occupier, the one train of thought is, do we just hold out for a bit to see what happens? But if this all does blow over, and hopefully for one of our sakes it does, and it goes back to business as usual as best as it can, no doubt there'll be a lot of occupiers pushing the green button and going back to their searches, and then we're dealing with an influx of occupiers again, trying to take on a market that just hasn't got the supply to cope. So we need to be sensible. I think the message, certainly what I've seen with my clients, is the ones that have just started their search and those that have a year left on their lease events are holding off seeing with their existing landlords if they can buy some short-term extension, whether it's 3 or 6 months on their existing expiry. But those that are in buildings that are being earmarked to be redeveloped, or where there are block dates in buildings where landlords have potential opportunity to get back the schemes and potentially put a scheme in place, those occupiers are still looking, and it might be an opportunity for them now to get that added incentive on their deal.
Great. Look, sure. I'm gonna sort of wrap it up there, and obviously we're going to come back. We're going to do this on an ongoing basis, so we'll hopefully get week by week updates on the London market. And I know you do a lot more than just the London market. You are a great connector. You know everyone, connected around the world, and that's how we interact. So hopefully over time we can dig into some of those things too, and you can keep us all enlightened about what's going on, and maybe we'll get your crystal ball out at some point as well, where you can actually tell us what's going to happen and what we should be expecting. But Stuart, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.